We are Mike and Jeannie, and we restore old houses. In 2021, we moved to South Carolina and bought a 120-year-old Victorian house. Follow along as we put the polish back on this Victorian masterpiece.
Welcome back to 1834 Restoration House. Last night got really cold. It was like 29 degrees. It's about 33 now, so it's doing better, but not by much.
Well, you have to have a sense of humor when you have an old house. What we found out was that it was cold up front and warm in the rear. We did a little bit of troubleshooting to see if we could figure out what's happening here. That's what we determined. More hot air goes to the back of the house, very little hot air goes to the front of the house. And guess where the thermostat is? It's in the front of the house in the coldest room downstairs, which really isn't helping things. So for the sake of saving energy and for our own personal comfort, we're going to take a look at this and see if we can find out what's going on. This is the main entrance hall, and this room is always cold in the winter, as is the office, which is over there, and the tool room, which is over here. The problem is the thermostat is in the tool room, and so if it always feels cold, it's going to call for heat all the time, and that's not good. And that's what burns energy. So let's go inside here, and I want to check the register. All of the registers in the main section of the house are these little skinny types. They don't have a lot of airflow, but I am feeling a good amount of heat coming out of here. So why the room is cold seems like a bit of a mystery. Let's go check the bedroom. This register is working too. I'm feeling hot air coming out. It's kind of a bubble of heat. Seems to be working. So why is the front room so much colder than the back? This is the laundry room, and for some reason this room is always hot. Look how much larger that register is. This thing is about twice the size of all the other registers in the house, and probably was added more recently. And this is what they tend to use in houses these days. But there's a ton of air coming out of this thing. So I'm going to take this register. It's kind of stiff and rusty, but I'm going to close this thing down. Oh man, there is a lot of air coming out of here. So I've closed this down, and I'm going to drop it back in. Let's see what effect that has on the rest of the house. Okay, so that drastically dampened down the amount of air coming here.
Wow, that's a lot more air. Nice. It's amazing how little things can alter the efficiency of your furnace. We're going to see if that little thing will make our furnace run more efficient. Today is sponsored by us, 1834 Restoration House mugs. They're ceramic. They are good size, 15 ounce. You can fit your favorite drink, your favorite soup. You can fit all kinds of stuff in these things. They are microwave and dishwasher safe, and we have lots of them available. If you'd like to support our preservation efforts by purchasing one of these mugs, please see the link in the description below.
A brand new electrical panel is no good unless you can get the energy out to the loads, and that's what this is for. So this will go up inside the breaker panel, and it comes down like this. This is an access panel so that we can pull cabling through and reverse direction and go that way. And then this actually has to penetrate the house structure and go underneath, which means we have to drill a hole. But how do we do that? So with a 2-inch pipe, if you go and drill a 2-inch hole, it's not going to fit because the 2-inch pipe actually shows the inside diameter, not the outside. Well, you could guess, and you could get a 2 1/8, a 2 1/4, a 2 3/8, or a 2 1/2. But how do you really know for sure? This is how we do it. You take a dial caliper, just take a quick reading here, and it's about 2.37 inches. So let's do some math real quick. So if we say, pick a number like 3/8, you take the 3 divided by 8, and that gives you 0.375. Add that to your 2, and that's 2.375, which is just about what we have here. That means this pipe is very slightly smaller than 2 3/8, and that's what this drill is here, so this is what we'll use. The first thing I need to do is remove the knockouts, and I just do that one at a time from the middle out. All right, let's break this thing. I feel as though it's already broken, but it just doesn't want to come out. Maybe not. There it goes. Like that. This is the last piece I'm trying to get out of here. I'm just going to work it back and forth until it finally breaks out. There it goes. It doesn't take much. You just have to get it started. Okay, so these are the 2 knockout pieces. We're done with those. For the next step, I'm going to take this cover plate off. There's the inside. Now, I'm going to test fit this up in here so I can figure out exactly where it needs to go. Right away, I can see that there's going to be some interference between this trim board here and this is sticking out too far, so we'll have to figure out how to relieve that as well. Last week we showed you the plastic bushing. That's to keep the cables from rubbing against any sharp metal edges. Now this is called a metal bushing, and it serves the same purpose, but it's polished and it's smooth, and it has a kind of a, I don't know, like a dish shape to it. That way the wires can come through and lay over the top like that and not be damaged. What I need to know first is, when this is all put together, how far is it from this edge to the center of this? So this represents what it will look like when it's completely put together. But the trouble is, I have some interference. So the first point of interference is right here with this piece of wood. So I'm going to have to notch this out. So first I'll mark it up. And then I need to relieve this enough so that this can sit back in it. Okay, so that's the first cut. I'm just basically trying to get it started, hogging it out, as they call it, and then I'm going to trim it and adjust it until it's right. It looks like we probably need at least a ½ inch more. Okay, so that got us to the point where it's no longer interfering on the top. All right, now I'm just going to try to eyeball this and get it as close as possible. It's not rocket science, but it does need to be fairly close to accurate. So I'm going to go ahead and make myself a mark indicating where we have to do the circular cutout. There's an old saying, trust but verify. So before I punch this hole, I've got to go around the back and see what's behind there. There could be a joist, or a pipe, or a wire, but let's find out. So from the bottom edge of this board, it's 4 1/4 inches. And let's reference off the window frame there. about 34 inches. Okay, I'm inside now, and I'm measuring back 34 inches from the window frame to see where that lands. Okay, that's right on top of a pillar. And then 4 3/4 from the bottom of the sill, which is about here. So that's going to be right in the middle of a joist pocket, which is perfect. That's exactly where we want it.
We were hoping to show you how to find the center of the circle mathematically with a drafter's compass, but apparently we don't have one anymore. So we're going to do the best we can with this. You try and find the widest spot, measure that, and then we can move this around to find the other side of the widest spot. And hopefully that will tell us where our center is. 1 3/8 there. Are we still 1 3/8 here? Yes, we are. That should be our center.
All right, I'm going to drill a pilot hole here just to be sure that everything is as we think it is. I'm going to go inside and take a look and make sure that it comes out where I think it is. I don't see the pilot hole, so that could be that our drill bit wasn't quite long enough to get through there. Sometimes the simplest things give the most trouble, and this is that case. So that's not going to work. We drilled a pilot hole to see where that went, and we discovered there's this big block of wood about this thick. There is no way that we can get a core drill to go down through that. It's just not possible. So we got to thinking maybe we should come down and go through the brick instead. And this is the solution we came up with. It took several hours to come up with this combination, mostly because a lot of parts are not available. And even if they are supposedly available, often the stores don't have them, or the stores are closed and we can't get them. So we found these parts, and this is what we're going to do. So here's our grommet. We'll come straight down through the notch, through a long sweep, and here's our junction. And we're just going to penetrate the brick right here and go underneath, and then inside we'll have another junction box there where all of the circuits from the different parts of the house will converge. Okay, this is kind of what it'll look like when it's done. We have everything kind of screwed together, and I put the level on here so we can make sure that it goes straight up and down, because this heavy end is trying to push it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and level this up, and Jeannie can mark it.
Okay.
Right about there. So she's drawing a circle where the hole would go. What we're doing is applying some commercial practice to a residential installation. The box that's on the inside that we haven't yet put in is going to be a junction box. We're using armored cable in the house. That way, if any rodents, squirrels, mice, or rats ever get in the future, there's no way that they're going to be able to chew through this stuff. When the armored cable terminates at the box, just on the back side of this wall, the armor stops. The wires themselves come through, so there's no jacket, no shield, just the wires. They'll come through, come up as a bundle through this conduit, and then they'll connect up to their various terminals and breakers. It's a great system, and it's usually used in commercial applications, but I think it's going to work great here. I'm going to put some compound on here. This is a conductive paste, and I want to put it on here just so that I can keep the water out and ensure some conductivity in the process. We still get questions from viewers asking why we put the equipment on the outside of the house. And it seems that the more southern climates will tend to put their boxes outdoors. We saw this in California extensively when we lived there for a few years, and that seems to be a thing around here too. But for us, the big thing is everything from this gutter that way is all historic. It goes to 1900, and we don't want to put any electrical panels inside those rooms. They're beautiful, they've got plaster, they've got wood. We don't want to ruin the aesthetic of it. And so that's why we chose to put it outside. Well, you might say, why not put it back on the addition where the other one is? If somewhere down the road we or a future owner decides to tear the addition off, to be able to free that up from the electrical equipment is a big bonus, because then they can just rip it off, build out, and build a nice new addition back here without having to worry about the electrical being in the way. So that's why we chose to move it around the corner on the outside. Is it ugly? Yeah. But I'd rather have the ugly on the outside around the back that doesn't face the street than to have it inside the house messing up all that beautiful plaster and woodwork. This is fun. It's like a do-it-yourself electrical set. Now that these are all screwed together, we're just going to double check and make sure that the mark that we made still works, because when you screw things together, they tend to move as you tighten them, and that can change the way the geometry is. So I'm going to go ahead and put this back on here, and go ahead and pull up your side. A little more right there is perfect. Looks like it may have changed, huh?
It has changed. It's
Okay.
come up some.
It has. That's interesting. Okay, I'm going to put this on here and check it the other direction.
Okay.
Okay, we need to swing. Oh, you know what?
This is just,
Oh, yeah.
this is not the right piece.
That's fine.
I just want to mark the circle with it.
Right.
So the 8-inch piece that we will be putting through there will be fine.
Yeah. It seems like it's pushed out a little bit. Is there any way you can...
It is.
Can you screw that in tighter? Make it as short as possible?
As far as I can get it in there.
Okay, try that.
I don't think it's right yet, though. It's close. It's a lot closer.
It is close, yeah. And the hole will be ever so slightly oversized. Let's just check that this way. Okay, go ahead and lower your end somewhat.
Lower.
Yeah, okay, go the other way. Up a little. A little more. Come back just a hair. Perfect.
Okay. Did
All
you
right.
get the pencil?
Yeah.
We're in a different spot.
There you go.
Thank you.
Sawzalls are really good at hogging things out, but a chisel is the way to finish it up. That looks 100% better. This is old growth lumber here, and as you can see, it's in perfect condition. It's 120 years old, and there's no rot, no decay whatsoever. And that's because this section had paint on it all these years and was never without paint. Next thing we need to do is cut a hole right here for the pipe to go through. And so we have this. Listen to this. It's got a beautiful ring to it. So that would fit on there just perfectly. This is a concrete bit, and it'll go right through concrete. Now, if this thing can cut through concrete, it'll have no trouble going through brick, which is much softer. And this tool right here, we bought when we had our last house because we did so much work in the basement on the masonry down there. This is a hammer drill. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on here. There it goes. Done. This drill has 3 modes. It has just straight out drill. It has drill with hammering, and it has hammering without drill. So today we want to hammer with drill. And that'll give it a little bit of tapping motion as it rotates. There's one. Okay, now that was fast and very painless. So here's one of the pipes. Okay, that works good. It has a little bit of slop, which is great because if we didn't measure correctly or drill perfectly, this will give us a little bit of wiggle room to change it. And then when it's done, we'll fill it up with a sealer. Okay, it's time to put this thing together. Let's see how it goes. So we'll slip this in here, swing this up, and now, if everything goes well, and it looks like it's well, this should be able to just go right in. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? That's what I'm talking about. This is the junction box that we're putting under the house. So all of the electrical connections from the outlets, the lights, and everything will come through here, and then they'll come out the backside through the conduit up to the breaker panel. So that means that we have to cut a hole for it. So I'm going to start right about here and make a pilot hole. Okay, I have a hole cutter here, and I made just enough of a mark so I could see where the cutter's going to be. And I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of oil on that. We don't want the teeth to overheat. We have to be super careful with this because the torque here is enough to break my arm if this thing catches and that catches. So I'm going to have Jeannie come over here and hold this side, and we'll just do really light pressure. Put some more oil in there. Keep it all lubed up really good. Just like that. You see how hot that got? It was starting to steam. Yeah, that was the oil. There's a burr on the inside of this hole caused by the cutting. So I'm just going to take a file, just go around and clean that up really good.
So what is going on here? It is early January, and they must have some magical plants here in the South, because it has been below freezing. And look at these blooms. These blooms are incredible. It's not just one or two. There's a whole bunch of them on there. Aren't they beautiful?
I'm putting the cover on because we're not ready to pull wires through here. And I'd like to keep creatures out. I just want to demonstrate what I'm doing next. So I'm going to put a backer ring on here, which represents that. And then that will slip in like that. And I'll put that on, and I'll put another ring on the inside, and the two rings will hold it tight. And the other thing I have to do is put a plastic bushing on the inside of that box to avoid cutting wires on sharp edges. Next, we're going to clamp this down to the wall. What that does is keeps this from moving. See, this used to be really loose. Now it doesn't move at all. And I went ahead and put our secret sauce concoction on that piece of wood just to give it some oil until we can get some real paint on it. All right, since we're looking for a professional installation, I'm going to go ahead and clamp this ground wire so that it looks nice and sharp. I'm going to give this wire a couple of love taps just to make it nice and straight. There. The masonry requires special treatment. You can't just put a regular screw in there, so I have these special Tapcon screws, and it calls for drilling a hole. I'm going to drill the hole in the mortar, not the brick. The drill is loaded up with the Tapcon bit. I'll put the clamp on there. put the screw through the clamp, if I can get it there. Okay, now these are supposed to be able to grip masonry. So let's see what happens. Well, I'd say it did. Look at that. Let's go ahead and bend this out nice and straight. We want it to look really professional because the county inspector is going to come and look at this stuff, and his first impression is based on how it looks. There's number 2. And we'll go ahead and bend this out, make it nice and neat. Let's see, we have 1, 2, 3. So we have 3 bricks between each course of screws and anchors. So say 1, 2, 3. So the next one goes here. Let's see if we can make that nice and straight. Okay, that one failed, probably because I didn't drill it deep enough. So let me get the drill back here. One of the things about these Tapcons is you have to drill the pilot hole deeper than the screw. Okay, let's try that again. Better. We have 2 clamps in the wood. We have 3 clamps in the brick, and everything is looking sharp.
The old next to the new. That looks great.
Yeah, check it out.
Very nice. Nice and clean. I like it.
This is all in, and it's looking good. It's anchored firmly.
Solid.
And that's anchored down nice and neat.
Good. So what's left on this?
Put breakers in and start running wires out to the loads, really. No, actually, there's one thing first before we do that. The county inspector has to come by, and he's got to look it over and give his blessing. Once that's done, we'll call the utility. They will trench a line from the pole, which is behind the camera, over to here. And they'll come up here in the meter box. They'll probably take that meter right there and pop it right in here. And that'll energize the panel, and then we're off to the races. Now, once that's done, we have to make one important connection, and that is out of here with this breaker. This is a 100 amp breaker. That panel right there is a 100 amp panel. So we're going to run a set of wires over to that panel and re-energize it. That way the house and all of its electrical systems will have power just like they did before, except they'll be coming off of here. And what that does is it makes it possible to take one circuit at a time, run a new one out to the load, hook it up, and then abandon the old. And so one by one, we'll take all the circuits off of there and off of the fuse boxes and off of the knife switches, the knobs and the tubes, and we'll get everything all completely modernized.
Yes.
So that's as far as we can go today. We're completely out of parts, but we did everything that we set out to do. It was challenging.
Yes.
And frustrating, trying to figure out how to make it work, but we did.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears. Yep, yep, literally. All right, well, that's it for now. Let's go ahead and close this up.
All right.
That's all we have for you this week.
Thank you for watching 1834 Restoration House.